The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nick Zulovich, the editor of Subprime Auto Finance News. In today's webinar, Profit Building Service and Recon Tips, we're going to learn more about how NCM Associates has identified these different business models and levels of reconditioning associated with each one in the buy here, pay here business. Today's presenter is Gene Daughtry, NCM's buy here, pay here specialist. But before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items for today's webinar. Please make sure you've dialed in using the phone number provided in your communication email, or are able to listen via your PC speakers. We are recording today's webinar and will make the recording available to you later in the coming days. You're in listen-only mode for this webinar, but we will reserve some time after Gene's presentation for a question and answer session. You can submit your questions at any time through the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. And if we don't get to your question today, don't worry. We'll forward it on to Gene and the folks at NCM so they can respond back to you directly via email. And lastly, if you have any problems during the webinar, just click on the hand icon and we'll do our best to correct the problem. And now I'd just like to take a moment to introduce Gene. Gene Daughtry is an executive conference moderator, trainer, and consultant specializing in buy here, pay here, and lease here, pay here dealership operations for NCM. Gene's experience encompasses retail, direct financing, leasing, RFC general management, and full operational control and portfolio management. He has more than 16 years of total experience in buy here, pay here, covering these uniquely different operations. So now let's learn more about those profit building service and recon tips with Gene. Gene, the webinar is now yours.
All right, Nick, thank you very much. I appreciate all the great introduction there. I need to hire that guy. He sounds pretty good.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with you, sir.
All right, well, that is great. Okay, well, let's jump right in it. These guys are here to talk about service and lots of interest in reconditioning, so I'm going to get right to it. So let's see here and click the right button. Hopefully I've done all the right things. All right.
Yep, we can see your screen now, Gene.
All right, there we go. We're going to start with an agenda. We'll talk a little bit about the realities of service and buy here, pay here. Everybody knows those go together pretty well. We're going to talk about the models for buy here, pay here, different models to kind of narrow down all the different functions that different buy here, pay here stores have. I'm going to talk about warranty and service contracts and reinsurance and the ways that those can help you make profit and affect your how you set up your operation. And then we're going to talk quite a bit about reconditioning. Some of the buy here, pay here service realities. Most dealers don't think of buy here, pay here, your service department as a profit center. And it's something that I like to stress is that it should be considered a third entity of your dealership, a profit center. You have your sales operation, you have your portfolio, and you should have a service department that can generate revenues on its own. And we'll talk about that as we go through. And then we're going to talk some about inconsistency. You know, Mary Jane comes in to get a repair, and you take care of her car because you like Mary Jane. Joe Blow comes in to get the same repair, and you don't do that, and that creates inconsistency, and that can be a real issue, especially nowadays as the CFPB is getting cranked up, and there's hotlines out there your customers can call. So we want to work on that inconsistency a little bit. The operational models that I was going to tell you about, you know, because there's 30,000 buy here, pay here dealers in the United States. There's 30,000 different ways of setting up those dealerships. But we'll talk a little bit about a low cap operation or a low capitalization operation, mid cap operations where they're a little bit more in the mid range, and then we'll talk about high line operations. But I keep bumping that mouse and having to jump everywhere. A low cap operation, as a lot of everyone knows, and this is what most people recognize as a buy here, pay here store or a note lot, is cars that the ACV $15,000 to $3,000, if you can even find them these days. The dealers generally do little or no reconditioning to the vehicles, just as little as possible. Everybody rides. You go to a low cap store, generally anybody that comes in and says yes, they'll take it. They can get them a vehicle. The vehicles are going to be as is, and most of the dealers that I deal with cases in that scenario, there's might be some short time warranties, but mostly as is. The customers are on a very short leash, and the dealer's going to be pretty quick to repossess those vehicles and pretty quick to turn that vehicle back out onto the lot, even if it's got 200,000 miles on it. There, I just put a picture in there to kind of show sort of what I'm talking about as a low cap store. I hope that's not any of our dealers on this webinar's lots there. Low cap reconditioning, generally most of the dealers in that bracket are going to deal with safety. They're going to be their primary thing when they look at a car. They're looking for dangerous leaks. Do the lights all work? Are there tread on the tires? Is there some brake pad so the car can stop without using metal to metal? Is the vehicle, can they clean it? They'll clean it a little bit. And then, their primary concern is it going to last the length of the note? And that's what they're thinking of with their reconditioning. In the mid-cap operations that I've dealt with, and this was more my experience that I had, I generally averaged around 7,200 ACV. But the mid-cap stores are getting into a little bit more reconditioning. They have a more expensive vehicle. They're going to think beyond safety on a vehicle and look at maintenance on the vehicles and deal with some cosmetics. So they have abilities to deal with some cosmetics on cars. I ran a tire operation in my store. We bought tires wholesale. We had mounting and balancing capabilities, and so a lot of our vehicles would have new tires on them. But that's something that a mid-cap store with a more expensive car is going to deal with in their shop. Good used tires or put new tires on there. Those mid-cap stores will generally have a nicer facility. They'll take an older car lot, a gas station, a convenience store, and spend money renovating it, give it the identity of their business, and they'll offer some back-end products of some kind of a warranty program, or they'll have service contracts. They may have some kind of insurance product. They're getting into a little bit more services for their customers because they're trying to attract a different customer in some cases. They'll offer some kind of customer pay repair program to go beyond their service contract or go beyond their warranty, or they'll set up some type of receivables. So that's, a mid-cap store is a little bit different. I have some pictures of those, where they have a facility that's got the identity of the owner and what they wanted it to look like in their operation. They've spent more money on the marketing, the street presence, and then a simpler shop, a shop that can do some of the work for their customers. A couple of lifts, a couple of guys with their tools, and they're doing some of the repairs, probably have a sublet on the side. It's just a question of what is capabilities of the facility that you have. There's some of the low-cap stores that'll do more repairs. Mid-cap reconditioning gets into a little more repairs, and this is more along the lines of what I consider good reconditioning, where you're dealing with making a decision about tires. Are you going to do new tires, or are you going to use good used tires? Are you going to replace the brakes? I always want to do maintenance on my cars, and that's showing up, Nick.
I was about to say your audio is starting to break up a little bit. We can still see your screen fine, but the audio is getting a little gravelly.
I can't understand it. Okay, anyway, so I like to mention cars also, and and mid a little bit and a big crack across the windshield, bar in the windshield. They're looking at it to buy it, or when they're driving. It's just something that's simple to replace. It's right in their eye. It costs that much to deal with them, and I think it's
I apologize to everyone. Gene, I'm not sure what might be happening with your microphone. Perhaps maybe unplugging it and plugging it back in perhaps might help rectify the situation. Again, I apologize to everyone for the technical issues that we're having here today. Please bear with us. We'll try to get this corrected as quickly as possible here. And we're working to get the audio corrected here as quickly as possible. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties here. We're trying to get things rectified as quickly as possible. So thank you again for your patience.
difficulty, I guess.
This is Nick Zulovich again from Subprime Auto Finance News. We apologize for the technical problems that we're having here. We're working as quickly as possible to get the webinar restarted. We appreciate everyone's patience here, and we'll get things back rolling as quickly as possible. Thank you. Hello again, everyone. This is Nick Zulovich from Subprime Auto Finance News. We're still working on our technical issues here. We will get Gene and the webinar restarted as quickly as possible. Thank you again for your patience, and we'll be back on as quickly as possible. Thank you.
And webinar, version of webinar, slideshow, front. I got my. See if you can hear me. Can you hear me out there, Nick?
I can, Gene. I can, Gene. So I'll hand control back over to you. Again, thank you, everyone, for your patience, for the technical issues that we had here. We'll pick up. Gene was at his point in his presentation talking about mid-cap stores. So perhaps, Gene, if you could re-pick up on that from the top of that point of your presentation here on this page. I think that's when the technical issues started.
Yes, it did. Okay, I'm going to get back to talking about mid-cap reconditioning, and I apologize for that. It just had a mind of its own there for a minute. Okay, I was talking about windshields at one point there. I have it listed on my recap reconditioning. To me, it's a very important point to make that windshield can make or break a car, you know, as far as a customer goes. And even after you sell the car, if you sell it with a big crack in the windshield or a big star chunk in the windshield that'll turn into cracks, customer's driving around and he's looking at that all the time. And if he has issues with that, and then he has to make a car payment, and you know, when you're in a mid-cap store, windshields, I generally paid $130 to $150 a piece for them, so they weren't too much, and we just replaced them if there was going to be an issue in the sight line of a customer. Suspensions, I talked about a little bit about that too, how that affects the car, and it can immediately affect your collections, your repeat and referral business. As funny as that kind of sounds, ball joints and hub bearings and struts, they will affect how that car drives. They'll affect it making loud noise. They'll also affect the eating of tires. And your customer, of course, has got very little money in most cases, or not enough. And so you're dealing with them having to make choices between tires and making car payments real fast if the front suspensions are not dealt with on your repairs or your reconditioning. Servicing transmissions. A lot of people don't realize transmissions have filters. I've been very surprised by that statement. I've asked a lot of people about it, and so they never thought to take care of that on their car while they owned it. And you're getting these cars, trade-ins with high mileage, and some of them they've never been messed with. The transmissions have never been serviced, and so we made it a point to pretty much go into all of them, unless you could tell by pulling the stick that the oil, the tranny fluid was clean, didn't have any burn smell. We might let that slide, but most of the time we were going to service the transmissions. Differential lubrication was another thing that I put on our checklist because we bought a lot of four-wheel drive trucks and SUVs in our market, and it was amazing how many we would get in that would be dry. There would be nothing in them, or they would be milky. And it's because of backing them in, putting the boat in the water, or going off hunting and driving through the creek, and either the water would force the grease out or it would mix with it, and you'd have rear ends that would be dragging or causing a lot of friction issues. And so it was something that we put down that we always use, a friction reducer mixed with the grease into the differentials to make sure they were full up. If you have Dodge trucks that you sell quite a few of or any of, I found that a lot of them they get horrible fuel mileage. And sometimes that would be the reason why the differential is so eat up from not having any lubrication. And so it's just something to check. And then a complete detail. It's so important. I've been surprised how many dealers that I talk to, and they do very little detail. They sort of clean. I've even talked to one recently that didn't clean anything unless they were really, really bad. And so I just really am an advocate of a complete detail, right down to even pulling the interiors out and pressure washing carpets. There are Highline stores that are out there. I'm going to kind of skip through this and make up a little bit of time, but there are some stores that sell $20,000, $25,000 vehicles and have very nice facilities, and they're more like a new car or a Highline independent dealership, and they're out there too. and I have some pictures of those. And I have a picture of a full shop, one that's like the ones that I set up, where you can take care of any repair that comes up on any vehicle that you're doing business with. And that's plays a role in making a profit in the shop, is being able to take care of all the repairs that you have. Some additional information that I get asked questions about a lot: how many hours techs should be doing? How many hours should they be flagging? And 50 to 60 hours a week is a good week for a technician to do. I always pay my technicians on flag hours. Flag hours are being the labor hours that are coming off of your ALLDATA or Shop Key or Mitchell, your shop software. If you're using any kind of service contracts, they're going to be real keen on what the shop hours or the flag hours are. And here we go again. So the service manager is a very important position if you're going to have a shop. If you've got 400, 500, 600 cars on the books, maybe more, you should live. And there we went again.
I am so sorry, Gene. We were going along just fine. It was coming through fine.
Around 700 accounts on the books. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me out there, Nick?
Yes, we'll use a cell phone connection here to reestablish the audio for everyone. Thank you again for your patience.
Okay, is it working off of the cell now, Nick?
Yeah, we're.
Sounds like it is. I can hear it fine. Okay. Okay, back to it. Service manager, important positions. You're running enough business. 400 or 500 accounts on your books, on your portfolio, 600 or 700, you're going to have enough business coming into a shop. Keep multiple technicians busy and be dealing with parts buying. And the service manager position is very, very important. And buy here, pay here, your service is completely different than a regular dealer service operation. And the service manager needs to be very good with your customers. He's going to deal with a lot of your customers. He's almost more important than your collection manager in helping with your collections and dealing with those customers. He's also very important to your repeat and referral business as you go forward because of how his attitude is, what he does to help with customers, and how much control he has to say yes to repairs. I always kept my service manager on a very good profit bonus program off of the profit of the ROs in our shop so that he would be very in tune with getting the cars in and out of the shop and very in tune with the price of parts and how that's going as far as making sure that we're not paying too much for parts. In my operation, the reconditioning technician did not work for the service manager. And a reconditioning tech was usually be a B, C technician because he's mainly there to do maintenance work on the vehicles. My Recon tech was also on flag hours. He would get 65 to 75 flag hours, but he didn't make as much per hour. And so, he was able to run up extra hours, staying busy, and flag hours also, so that he could be. I want him to be moving as quickly as possible and getting as many cars out as he can. And in both cases, the technicians knew that if a vehicle returned off of their work, there wouldn't be any flag hours for return work, and so that way I wasn't paying them hourly to be in the shop. the recon decisions would be made by the inventory manager and the recon technician, and not my service manager. I kept the reconditioning separate from the service department, and that way the service manager was not dealing with the repairs that were dealt with in the reconditioning. And all the reconditioning would be posted at cost, and there we go. At cost, and not be considered part of the service department to be billed by the service department. We ran our recon straight on to the vehicles with no markup, and didn't have the service manager dealing with the recon operation. Okay, let's see, where is... I guess my poor old laptop is going to die on me here. I really apologize, everyone, for all the technical difficulties that we're having while I'm trying to get this slide presentation to catch up. Nick and I were laughing about this. I went to Seattle this weekend, and the person sitting next to me on the plane poured a Coke on my laptop, and it worked fine for days until right now. So I'm going to go call one of my technicians to come in here and take it apart for me.
Isn't that always how it works, Gene?
Oh, man, I tell you, Murphy's Law. You know, I have put many miles on this laptop since the weekend, and it's doing just fine until now. And I'm trying to get it to move to the next slide and get through this, and apologize, everyone. Okay, come on, catch up with me. All right. Okay, I'm off a little bit, but I'll be retired maybe today. Now, let's talk about warranties and service contracts, and I'm going to try to keep these slides moving. In case you don't know, a warranty is a product that you give to the customer. It's something that you cannot mark up. It's usually used by low-cap, mid-cap stores as a marketing tool to help tell people what they have. Service contract is a product that you can sell, and usually you purchase them from a third-party administrator, or you establish a reinsurance program of your own where you can market those products. A warranty, like I said, is something you can't mark up. It's included in the price of your vehicle. It's used for marketing. If you're a very diligent operator, you might pull have a pack on your vehicle, you pull some reserve to build up the pay for the repairs on your cars that are coming, and you know they're there. There's a lot of variations of warranties on vehicles, 30 days, free trees, or 6 months, 6,000 miles, something 50-50. Yes, sir?
Go ahead, Gene.
Okay. And a lot of dealers will use a 50-50. They might be 50-50 for the whole repair. They might be 50% of the labor, and the customer buys the parts. There's tons of variations of warranties that are out there. Come on. All right, good deal. Service contract. Now, that's a product that you purchase. You resell that with markup, and I have a lot of people that discuss this with me. I believe that you should sell a service contract and mark it up. Service contracts do provide consistency. That word we were talking about earlier, it's important that when Harry, Jane, and Joe Blow come in for repairs, they both get the same repair service, and using a service contract, we will take care of that for you. Okay, that's just going to go. It's got a mind of its own. But service contracts do allow for multiple programs for flexibility, or you can customize a particular program you want to market based on your terms of your loans. A lot of service contract companies offer a roadside program. I had a roadside program with mine that had 150 miles of towing per incident, and that is such a wonderful marketing tool, and it's also very cheap for that. Includes the customer 800 number. Always made them program in the test on during our closing process. And have that information when they walk into the store. Service contract companies also will offer retro programs or reinsurance opportunities. which allows you to share in reserve profits that they may be accumulating and give you an opportunity to have some of that money available to you. Even though in buy here, pay here, there generally is not a lot of reinsurance revenues or reserves that are built up if you're using it to make profit on your service contract. Okay, reinsurance. Reinsurance is a program that generally people talk about as being offshore. The dealer principal or you as the owner will set up some type of an insurance company and have a casualty company offshore. A lot of products you can get offered through reinsurance, like gas, threat cancellation, and CPI, which is your collateral protection insurance, or they have road hazard and windshield protection, a lot of things that you can offer as having a reinsurance company. And it's just something that you may want to consider. You can put together your own service contract. You can decide what the coverages are. You control the reserve. You control the claim payout. And you can live with the coverage that you have, or you can go outside of that if you want to use your reserve money more. And it's just a good way to set up a service contract program if it's the right thing to do in your taxes and your business. So which one is best? And that's what we're talking about. That depends on which model you operate. If you're a low-cap model, mid-cap model, what is your ability to increase your cash and deal? If you're going to market a product, you have to capitalize it for your customers in most cases. And are you at a point where you can capitalize on the extra cash and deal to do that? And then the tax situation that's associated with your operation as a dealer principal, are you a part of a big franchise of stores? How is your setup? All of those things play a role in whether a service contract or just having a warranty or doing reinsurance are going to work for your operation. Let's talk about my preference. I like a third-party service contract. The RO potential profit is so good, 60 to 70% of the ROs that you run through a third-party service contract is going to be profit. A third-party service contract company is going to pay retail rates for labor. They're going to pay marked up parts. They'll pay for diagnostics. They'll pay for fluids. They pay for your roadside. There's just a lot of good points to a third-party service contract. And if you're marking that service contract up, it provides you with deal growth on the front end of your operation. You're able to make profit on the front. Again, you're capitalizing that, but it's still capitalizing your vehicle ATV. You're capitalizing your reconditioning. So it's just a good way to generate some extra good profit, and it allows your shop to generate true cash flow. The towing stage, like I talked about, in most of these service contracts, some just offer a reimbursement, some offer more than that. The one that I used offered 150 miles of towing per incident. In the state that I'm in, they've got the cars from almost anywhere in the state picked up, brought to my lot without anybody paying anything. And they also paid us to give out loaners. Through their rental program, if we had a big job that qualified for a rental car, we were able to give loaners to add that to the RO. Think about how much you have in policy or spend in goodwill. You have a service contract that has day one coverage and it has wear and tear coverage. Most of your policy work will, instead of costing you money and towing the vehicle back in right away, your policy work will now generate a profit. And so it's something that is a good way to have. You can get rid of that. I talked to dealers recently that had $25,000 up to $60,000 so far this year in policy work, taking care of their customers. And that could have been turned into a profit. So the guy that had $65,000 in expenses on policy, he could have possibly generated $100,000 in cash flow off of this service contract in that scenario. Recall is another good reason for a third-party service contract. You repossess a vehicle, it's still under that service contract. You bring it into your shop after you've repossessed it and go ahead and do whatever repairs are covered under the service contract. Generate that profit for your shop. do the repairs, which improves the value of your repossessed vehicle, and then you can still get your prorated refund. You cancel the service contract and get a refund back from the service contract company for your portion of the paid fee for the agreement. So there's a lot of good reasons for a third-party service contract in my experience, and after 16 years of using them, it's the way I'm going to go. Now, let's quickly dig into reconditioning. I'm trying to speed this up a little bit. Reconditioning is a major expense. Our dealers experience about $1,000 per unit in reconditioning. Reconditioning is very important. What do you want to have your name on out of your market? What do you want driving around? I've always looked at my competitors' vehicles and see what they're selling, and you can tell brand new paper tag on the back, still got the buyer's guide in the window, and they got rounded off tires, mismatched tires, dents on them, they're smoking, they got rolled down windows in hot weather. You can tell what people are buying from these other lots, and I didn't want my company's name on stuff like that, so the reconditioning plays a big role in marketing. It also plays a role in those comebacks. Are you making headaches for yourself? I have a lot of cars that are going out and they're coming right back. And even if you're the nicest guy in the world, and those comebacks are being taken care of by you without any question, your customers are still leaving and coming back, getting inconvenienced, and telling folks that they're having issues with these vehicles. Oh, my goodness. Okay. I'm getting all kinds of pop-ups on the computer. Anyway, and maintenance is the key to reconditioning, at least it is for me, and in more of the mid-cap type stores. Everything's being done. The customers aren't going to be able to afford maintenance, or they're not going to do the maintenance. So I always tried to do all the maintenance that I could when I was talking about my reconditioning checklist and what I did in reconditioning. So let's talk about the checklist. The checklist is not going to show up on these slides, but I am going to give you a way to get a copy of it if you would like. And there are some important items that I want to point out. Then must match paperwork. It's something that seems real simple. But how many gold fusions are out there in the world? How many tan Tauruses are there? And as hard as it may seem, I've actually had the wrong car come in from an auction before. And so my first item on my reconditioning checklist would be to have the Recon tech match the VIN number on his RO with the VIN number on the car and make sure that we have the right car. That's just another check to that. Another thing as a dealer, you are on the hook for recalls. Maybe not in every state, but most states, they look at you as you sold the vehicle, you should have checked that out. And so my reconditioning checklist includes that. Check the recalls. Go to your shop key or your all data or your Mitchell or whatever shop service software you're using, and check the bin for recalls. And if it's got them, don't hesitate. Get the thing over there and get the recall done. Check your cooling system out. Pressure test it. Don't just say coolant looks good and let them roll. Check those hoses for swelling. They'll show signs if you pressurize the cooling system. Or drive the vehicle on your road test and let it get good and warm. And then look at the hoses when it's swelling right at the clamp as they're swelling at the clamp. And the worst thing in the world is to have somebody hop in the car and go to West Texas from your dealership and blow a heater hose. Because they're going to do a lot more damage than that. They're a long ways away from your store, and it doesn't really matter what kind of service contract you're using. It's not going to cover a maintenance item like a hose. So be sure to test that cooling system. Another thing that's really simple and should be done, and you need to have the equipment for this, is testing your alternator and your battery. Go test that battery and see if it's good. Do the test on the alternator. That alternator can be starting that car and running that car. They're only putting out your 9 amps, but it needs to be putting out 13 or 14. And if you have the customer go on that, and they go and they run in the air, running the lights, running the stereo, got the boom box going, they could kill that alternator, and they're going to take the battery with it, and you could be having a headache right away when you could have just tested that. And something right here I like to do with everybody, clean those plates. Oh, I've had trouble in the past, a long time ago. It's now something that I consider so important to make sure the battery plates are clean at the very minimum of all your batteries. And then something simple, does the CD player work? we always plan to make sure that our CD players work in our cars. We test them, play a CD or two, make sure it changes tracks. Keep a couple of aftermarket stereos on hand. You can buy them on eBay for $80. Get nice inwood stereos. Get you a kit from the audio store and switch them out if you need to. Like I was saying, if you'd like a copy of the checklist for my reconditioning, it's a 2-page checklist. I can send it to you through email. This is my email address, dpaultry@ncm20.com. You can email right now, and I will send you a copy of that checklist. And since you're emailing me, I don't know if you're interested in being in a 20 group, and I have a 20 group starting July the 21st. It's a new group, and if you're interested, it's getting close to time to sign up, but you can go ahead and get involved. You can send me an email about that also, and I'll get you the information. It's going to be held at DFW Airport in Dallas. Oops. Okay, reconditioning example. Talking about 20 groups, this is a slide showing 5 lines from a single page of our composite that we use at NCM when we talk to all of our dealers about their numbers. The composite's got 17 pages. Each page has about 50 lines on it of detailed information that we go through. You can look on line 5 of this slide, Recon provider paid her vehicle sold, and you see the numbers under there on the red lines, 1289, 1163, 1291. That's the amount per vehicle that these dealers are spending on their reconditioning. And this is a true composite of a group from about 6 months ago. The group average is $1,025, and our benchmark across all of our buyer pay here dealers is $968. So I can give you an idea, it is an expensive venture for all dealers. Another thing that we do quite a bit of is dealer surveys. And this is a compilation of several dealers of the information that we got from those surveys. The most important thing I'll point out, and then I'll get off of this slide, is the estimated cost off. It's kind of right in the middle of the page. It shows you how much per RO these dealers' expenses are. $326, $54, $381, $109, $185. You can see it's all over the board, depending on how many ROs are doing. The last one, the dealer's RO, cost per RO is $22. Now that's the cost for just running the shop, not doing, not doing the entire job. That's just the cost of the shop operation and the basic parts and labor and the cost of management. And that's the last guy's $22. You can see how many customer pay and warranty ROs. It's 208, 150. The numbers right above it. So it does have a lot of cost if you're trying to do as little work as possible and you're just running a few cars in your shop and trying not to do too much work. You can have quite a bit of expense just generating that work. So what should you spend in reconditioning? We, being my last operation, we averaged $800 a car. It was figure that cost because I kept my reconditioning as a function of the sales department, and all expenses were in the sales department. We averaged about $800 a car. Now, if you're doing yours through subcontractors or if you're running your shop where you're reconditioning as part of your service operation, you may be posting it as retail, and that's where some of our dealers can get into $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a car if they're actually paying regular retail labor rates. You're going to use newer used tires. That's another thing that can affect the cost. A good set of used tires you might get for $100, $125. A set of new tires is going to cost $300 to $800, depending on that vehicle that you're running them on. Like I said before, I ran a tire operation in our shop. We bought tires wholesale, mounted new tires on most of our vehicles. If you're selling low mileage or high mileage cars, that affects how much you're going to pay. A 125,000 mile pickup truck, if you're able to get that for $7,000 or $8,000, you're going to be spending $1,500 on it. Reconditioning and cost just to get it going. So trucks are very expensive. I sold a lot of trucks and a lot of SUVs to average $800, so that gives you some idea. If you're going to spend money on cosmetics, that can affect it also. It's up to you how let you do on that. I like the car to look good from about 10 feet. They call them 10-footers. And I'm not as concerned about small, light dents, and that kind of thing. Okay, it just decided to move on itself. Okay, so who decides on your reconditioning? I've been talking about how we did it at our shop where the reconditioning technician worked with the inventory manager and they decided between those two what was going to be done to on a repair. Instead, I kept it completely away from my shop manager. His job was to focus on the customers, the regular service operations, to deal with customer cars and warranty repairs, and then he didn't have to worry about reconditioning affecting his commissions. What's the best process? If my reconditioning technician knew, like if you had cars coming in from auction, that would be his primary function that morning would be to get those cars, get them in the shop, go through the checklist, go to the inventory manager, and then decide what they're going to do to the vehicles. That way, as soon as you can possibly get on the phone with the auction, if you needed to arbitrate something with a vehicle, you knew right away. But then, on any vehicle that we got, the reconditioning manager, the reconditioning technician would go through his checklist and get with the inventory manager, and they would decide what they're going to do, and then the car would be pushed back out. And all the parts would be ordered for the vehicle before it came back in the shop. And that way, the lift was not tied up, any of the lifts, depending on how much reconditioning you're doing, how many tanks you got. I think it's just a good process to go through the checklist, decide what you're going to repair, shop the parts, get them ordered, and keep the car out of the shop until all the parts are there for that. If you're going to use Sublet, one of the things that I'd like to tell everyone is that you make the decisions on your reconditioning with your Sublet. I talk to dealers, and they just give the cars to their Sublet mechanic shop, and they let them just kind of fix what they want, give them the car back, and boy, they can get into an expense. And we're changing Sublet shops pretty regular. If you're letting Sublet do your repairs anyway, there's very rarely that a single shop is going to handle everything and give you the good service that you want. Okay, reconditioning tips and tricks, things that I've talked about, people ask me all the time. Headlamp reconditioning, I get asked this question quite a bit. Most of the products that are out there for headlamp reconditioning are kind of snake-oil products. What we always did was the reconditioning technician had some non-abrasive liquid wax and a foam buffer pan on a buffer. Put a couple of dabs of wax on the headlight, hit it with the buffer. You could tell real quick if you were going to be able to have any effect on those headlights with that process. We bought headlight assemblies regularly. We got them through a body shop supply house. They were made in Taiwan most of the time, I'm sure. They were generally lightweight plastic, but they looked so good on a car with a brand new set of headlight assemblies on there. $60, $70 a piece for them. They would generally be worth it, especially if it's a safety issue, because some of them are really bad. Just can't recondition a lot of them because they have a film on there to help them be clear, and that film is what gets damaged, and there's not a wax in the world that's going to fix that. Flat black paint, say that 3 times quickly. All of our vehicles, everything that we sold, the detail guys would pressure wash the underside, the finger wells, and any frame parts that would be showing underneath the vehicle, and we sprayed them all down with flat black paint. For marketing purposes and how your cars look out on the lot, if every car you have has new tires or brake liquid tires, and all the finger wells are painted black, that row of cars just looks so good, and it can have good eye feel for your customers, and it helps your cars just look. How many times I've had customers say that those are so clean, the cars are so clean, and it's flat black paint. Really clean carpets. There's something that I talked to a couple of dealers, and they don't do a lot of cleaning, detailing. If we couldn't get a few stains out and make the carpet look real good with our cleaning process, we pull the interiors out, take the seats out, take the carpets out, take the pad out, and pressure wash all that stuff and set it out in the sun. and clean the floor pan of the vehicle while it's got everything out of it, and then put it all back together, and you would have a really nice-looking car. Generally, those cars started out pretty bad, and I know y'all all seen pretty bad cars, and that's if you just put your head down and have somebody that's in your detail that has done that, and there are a lot of different people that have done that type of thing. Okay, cooling lines, if you're dealing with a lot of vehicles, a lot of people don't realize that those automatic transmissions have cooling lines. They run up to the radiator. And you can do all the filter and tranny service you want to. If you leave those cooling lines and don't clean them out, blow them out, they could be stopped up. And that is going to cause your transmission to wear faster than normal because it's getting hot all the time. And so it's one of the things that I like to remind everybody about is blow those cooling lines out every time you work on a transmission, service a transmission, and help your transmissions last a little longer. I got JB Weld muffler tape on there. It's a great way to repair exhaust manifolds that have cracks in them, especially like Jeep Wranglers where you cannot get them. They're on super special back order or something, but you can't seem to buy them. And you can put a layer of JB Weld over a crack in an exhaust manifold and wrap it with muffler tape and then put more JB Weld over it and let that cure for a couple of days. And I have had no complaints over many years of doing it that way to stop exhaust leaks if you're dealing with cracks in exhaust manifolds. eBay's your friend. I want to say about eBay. A lot of people know you can go to eBay and look up and get some parts. A couple of other things about eBay is, let's say you buy those pickup trucks and they got steel wheels and you're going to have to get tires anyway. I have bought lots of sets of alloy rims that already have good tires on them off of eBay, and they might be $400 or $500 for a full set and $100 for shipping. And that's cheaper than truck tires. And you've taken a basic truck and turned it into something that looks really nice by having that, getting a set of rims and tires that way. Another thing about it today is one thing that we focused on in all of our shops has always been try to hold on to core transmissions, core engines, core differentials, core transfer cases. Every now and then, if you're focusing on that, you're able to keep one. And we would rebuild them as we had extra time. And just for an example, we took the transfer case for a manual shift Chevy truck, and we replaced it with a salvage. We kept that one, and the technician spent some time and rebuilt it. We invested $180, and we sold it for $800 on eBay. So that's an extra good way to make some extra money and have the technicians do it if you manage to keep some cores. We've sold a lot of engines to customers that we rebuilt from a core in our shop, and the service contract company pay $1,800 or something for it. And we've had $500 or $600 invested in it. So it's just a good way to use the tools out there electronically to help make extra money. NCM, I don't know if you heard of NCMI, we have a blog that we run, a speed blog. You can go to blog at NCM. I can't see the web page there, but you can go to blog at ncminstitute.com and get daily blogs from lots of different authors and keep up with things that are going on in the industry. And if you have any questions about NCMI, their email's going to come up in a minute. If you have any questions for me, that's the end of the presentation. I apologize for all the technical difficulties that we have. I hope somebody's still listening out there, but if there's any questions, just let me know.
Thank you again, Gene, and great job battling through all of the technical problems. As mentioned, the worst case scenario might have happened here, where the laptop here was on its last legs, and we encourage you, if you have a question for Gene Daughtry, please use the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. And again, great presentation, Gene. Maybe a place to start off if a dealer is looking to get a service department started up. Any recommendations about how many bays it should have, how many technicians they should bring on board? How does that potentially relate to the either the amount of inventory that they have or the ACV of the inventory that they have? If they're trying to start up a shop, what are some recommendations there?
Well, as far as how many bays, of course, part of that's going to depend upon the facility you have available, but it is something that how many cars you have in inventory plays a little bit of a role. I was able to keep about 70 cars in inventory with one reconditioning technician. And then we had 700 cars on our portfolio, and I kept 2 full-time technicians busy, and I had another gentleman that did a little bit of part-time small work that was also pretty busy. So that a couple of technicians can handle 500-600 of your customers if you're strictly doing your own work and you have a technician to handle reconditioning separately. So that's the way to look at that. I mean, you start out with a couple of guys or maybe one guy that's pretty good, and you can tell how quickly you're building them. You shouldn't have a large backlog of work. We would generally have work for 3 to 5 days, always sitting outside with our 2 guys booked up pretty busy, getting 50, 60 hours a week, flag hours, and the shop just ran steady that way. And so, you don't need 5 guys to handle 500. If you have 500 cars, you just need 1 or 2 just to take care of your customers and keep them moving. And just put them on commission. They're not costing you nearly as much money if you put them on flag out.
Very good, very good. Another question here is maybe just stemming from the 20 group meetings that you've had or communication via email. What are some other concerns that dealers have had about where the price point should be, about how much reconditioning to do? What type of apprehension have you heard from other dealers, and what have you recommended to them to quell that concern?
They're concerned about reconditioning. We talked about that a little bit in the slides. It depends on what customer you're wanting to attract to your lot, and you can't actually have some control over that. A low-cap dealer, where you're buying $15,000, $18,000, $2,000 cars, your reconditioning is mostly about making the car roadworthy. You're not as concerned about the, really how nice it looks. It's more about is it going to function, because you're generally going to be telling your customer which car they can buy, and they're just hoping to get something that's going to run. And so those dealers tend to look at the reconditioning a little different. Make sure it's not smoking or leaking fuel. Make sure the tires are okay. The brakes will stop the car. It's going to go. The transmission's going to function. And it will make it most way through the lot, and that's sort of the thinking there. You get into more expensive cars and you're looking for a little bit different customer, then your reconditioning is going to be quite a bit more. Those customers are looking at the tires. They're going to want to have really nice tires because they're thinking about the future. They're going to want a car that looks good. They don't want something that is going to give away that they're having to buy at the no lot. And so you don't want to have it be too rough looking on the outside. It doesn't need to look like Stevie Wonder painted it, or it was just in a major hailstorm or something. And like I was talking about the windshield, a low-cap store might not change out a windshield, where a mid-cap store looking for a different customer, they probably would change out a windshield. What I say is go outside and look at a car from, primarily from the driver's side. That's where you're selling it from most of the time. And just kind of take a quick look at it. Does it look nice? Does the paint match? How the tires look? And then go sit down inside of it. What do you smell? What are you looking at when you sit down in the driver's seat? Can you see the gauge cluster clearly? Does every knob that you can touch from the driver's seat function what it's supposed to function? Can you tell what the knob is? I mean, does it look okay? What does the steering wheel look like? Is it clean? Does it have chunks out of it? Does the airbag cover match the steering wheel? those are the kind of things that I want to look at, thinking of it from the perspective of when I buy this car, what am I looking at, what do I smell, what do I see when I sit down, and then road test it. And if it goes straight down the road and the brakes don't shake the steering wheel and they'll stop the car without a bunch of grinding, and the transmission shifts okay and there's an expected amount of power and the air is blowing cold, those are the things that I want to take care of in reconditioning to make sure that a car is going to be acceptable to my customer, the one that I want, because desire is very important in our business. The customer needs to desire to have the vehicle you're selling them, and it makes it easier for them to pay for it. And I want to make sure that they're happy with what they drive off in, and they're not afraid for people to see them driving my cars.
Excellent advice, Gene. And just to quickly recap, you mentioned it during the presentation, but what is NCM's metrics again about the average amount of money that low cap and mid cap dealers are spending on reconditioning? What were those figures again?
Those figures were, the average of the group. One of the groups I was using for an example was $1,025 per car. And those were mainly mid-cap dealers. And that average was dealers were spending anywhere between $800 a car and $1,500 a car. Low-cap dealers, where they're spending, the dealers themselves are ACVing their vehicles in at $1,800, $2,600, $2,700, up to $3,500. They're spending, on average, about the same amount of money as the mid-cap stores. They're just spending it usually in a little bit different way, where they're dealing with mechanics and making sure the cars are going to function. They're trying to change fluids or replace worn parts to make sure the cars are going to run okay and be safe to drive. So even our benchmark average is $968 a car across the board, and we have dealers that are very high line that spend $300 a car, and we have dealers that spend $1,500 a car. And so you can see the average comes in there around $980, and it is going to be about the number. The question is, are you putting that expense against your car at cost, or are you putting that expense against your car at a retail number, and that can affect those numbers somewhat. Some people do it one way and some do it another. That was a real clear answer, wasn't it?
As I guess in summation here, and just a reminder that we are recording today's session, so if you need to circle back with some of the information that Gene shared today, we'll get the recording to you as quickly as possible. And I guess in the closing moments here, Gene, perhaps maybe refer back to a term that you and your NCM colleagues used at industry events back in May, that a lot of times the answer, whether it's reconditioning or underwriting or collections, what have you, the answer is it depends. And I guess for the it depends response and reconditioning, what would you like to, closing points you'd like to leave with the folks here today?
Yeah, that is truly it. It depends. It depends on what model business you want to be in. What car do you want driving around in your market with your name on it or the name of your dealership on it? That is the depend that you have for your reconditioning and how much you invest, because that is really it. Or you spend money advertising as a dealer. Is your advertising out there combating your reputation? So you create your reputation. How much repeat and referral business are you getting, and how much of it is affected by reconditioning and by how you deal with your repairs after you sell a car? Even if you are very nice and all your customers are coming back because their cars are getting trouble, but you do help them, they're still telling folks that their cars are always having trouble. So your reconditioning is important to more than just your bottom line on your expenses. It's also going to play a role in your marketing. It plays a role in your portfolio and how your collections take place, and it plays a role in your marketing, your recondition of repeat and referral business. So it's more than just an expense that you have to do. It plays a role in the performance of your business all through your operation.
Excellent closing advice, Gene. He's the Buy Here, Pay Here specialist from NCM Associates. Can be reached at gdaughtry@ncm20.com. Definitely a resource to be used. Thank you so much, Gene, and again, excellent job with overcoming the technical difficulties we had today.
I apologize to everyone for that, wasting that time. I'm sorry.
Again, thank you again for joining us, and best wishes for continued success of your stores. Thank you again.